there's a story behind the laws. So you also have to have this vision. So the title of it is Vision in Detail. So there's the overall vision of the Torah. And so in the beginning of Exodus, we have all these stories about how children of Israel are delivered, and just all these miracles and things happening, and this narrative that just, really makes the Torah like concrete, right? Or at least delivering the Torah is concrete, like an amazing experience, right? Then it switches to these little laws that are like, here's a law, and you're like, how is this connecting? You know what I mean? Like, why didn't it just continue on and start to the golden calf? Why did it break up the whole narrative and just start giving these little details? So how does this work? The answer is this: great leaders, be they CEOs or simple parents, have the ability to connect a large vision with highly specific details. Without the vision, the details are merely tiresome. There is a well-known story of 3 men who were employed cutting blocks of stone. When asked, what are they doing? One says, cutting stone. The second says, earning a living. And the third says, building a palace. Those who have the larger picture take more pride in their labor and work harder and better. Great leaders communicate a vision. So we have to have these details to communicate that vision. But if you only know the details and you don't know the vision, you have to have both. You know what I'm saying? If you have a vision, but you don't work on any of the little details, that vision's never to come to fruition either. So you have to have both. And then Edison also, there's a quote about Edison. He said, genius is 1% inspiration and 90% perspiration. So a lot of work and just that one idea, essentially. Of course, Edison was like a thief, so I don't know if I would quote him on that, but still. It's a good quote anyways. Regardless of where it came from, it's still a good quote, right? And then he also brought about Steve Jobs, kind of Steve Jobs' example of how he had this vision of the various products that he wanted to make, but he was so obsessive about these things. Like if you ever read any of the stories about him, he was super obsessive about the iPhone. He wanted every little detail. He would like make people cry because they weren't doing it right, or they weren't seeing his vision in the same way as he was. Or if they didn't do it the right way, it came to him saying, we can't do it. He'd like make them cry, saying, yes, you can't do it. Find a way to do it. And an example he gave, Jonathan Sachs said, his attention to detail was so much that he said in his stores, wherever there were stairs in the Apple stores, that they needed to have glass staircases in those stores. And the engineers and everyone are saying, there's no glass strong enough to make a staircase out of. And he's like, well, invent it. And so they invented it, and he patented that glass. So that's how crazy visionary he was, but also how attention to detail he was, where he wanted to make, he wanted to make sure even like the staircase was unique to his stores. So I don't know. I thought that was kind of. So, I mean, I guess that tells us as leaders or parents or whatever, that if you have this vision, if you're only paying attention to details, you're not going to do very well. And if you only have a vision, you're not going to do very well either. So as a leader, you have to have both. You have to have this vision, like as parents, I want my children to, do this in the future. I want to see my children to be like this in the future. But you also have to see, like, well, how am I going to get them to that way? You have to, they got to do this. They have to say please and thank you all the time, or else they're not going to be that person that I want them to be in the future. So you got to have this. Anyways, that's your leadership lesson for the day. No. Okay.